Hello, my name is Tracy Maxfield and welcome to Hammer Down Woodworking. Today we are going to go over the calibration of my table saw. It's a Delta 36725 10-inch saw. Like I said in a previous video, these tools have been moved twice. We sold our house and moved, so the tools were taken out of the old shop, put in storage, and then removed again over here. So I don't know how bad they're going to be out, but we're going to go through checking the calibration on this table saw, and anything that needs to be realigned, we're going to realign it. So, and this may not apply to your saw if you don't have this exact saw, but the fundamentals of it will apply to almost every table saw. So hang around. Okay, the very first thing that we want to do is, what I do is I'll remove the zero clearance and also take out the riving knife, or the splitter, just to get that out of the way. Then I want to make sure that my blade is at a 90 to this table, and I'll do that with this digital angle gauge. Set that on your table saw, and it will give you a reading. You can zero that out, which I need to spin this way. Zero it. And then just go straight to the side of your blade with it. And that one's showing me 89.9, which is not bad at all for a couple of moves. Once you get that on 90, lock that down. All right, the next thing I want to do is, and you'll see this if you watch any other videos on how to tune up or calibrate your table saw, you'll see this as a common practice among woodworkers, and that is to take a Sharpie and pick a tooth, it doesn't matter which tooth, and just mark it. And I've already marked this tooth right here. I marked that a minute ago and wrote it to the back, and I'll show you how to do that. Make sure the miter track is clear of any debris that will catch and throw your combination square out of the line. But what you want to do is ride along this track, and I've already set this combination square, and take that tooth that you picked. Now, I don't know if you can hear that or not. Just barely nicking the end of that. And you will want to ride to the back of the saw, take that same tooth and make sure that it's just barely touching that combination square the same way in the rear as it is in the back. And this one right here is so close that I am not going to mess with it. All right, the next thing that we want to do, we know we've got our table in line with our blade. Next thing we want to do is line up our fence. This fence has, this one is a T-square, has 3 points of contact, one back here and 2 in the front. And the way that you line your fence up in order to make good cuts and not have, you never want your fence, now this is an exaggeration, but you never want your fence setting closer in the back than you do in the front, because you make that passage narrow and the blade turns towards you, which these teeth are cutting this way as they come up, and it will pick that up in the back and kick back, either kick back the whole board, or if you've got a cut off in there, it will kick that back. So if anything, you want that dead on straight, or, now this is an exaggeration again, or have it further away from the blade in the back than you do in the front. You want your front to be at whatever measurement that you're wanting to cut, such as 6 inches. Move that to 6 inches. And you will want 6 inches exactly between this side of the blade and your fence. And you can have 6 and a 64th or 32nd in the back larger. That way it doesn't bind against your blade and cause kickback. That's one of the things that splitter and riving knives are for, but that's just to let you know that. But what we're going to do first is get a square that you know is very square, one that you trust, and we're going to set that on the metal portion. Don't get off out here on these wings, because those are thin. They can be warped just slightly enough to make you think that you're out and you're not. And you'll want to measure the fence straight up and down in the front and in the back. And I see that mine, you probably can't see it on camera, but mine, it is actually leaning. And again, this is an exaggeration of it, but it's leaning, the top is leaning closer to the blade than the bottom is, and we want to get that stood straight up. And here's how we do that. Okay, you can probably see that better there. It's touching at the top and not the bottom. See how it closes off at the top and not the bottom. And this is a simple adjustment. You have 2 screws, one in each side of this. And in order to roll this fence to the right or roll it to the left, you just adjust those. And of course, tightening this one, putting more pressure against the bar, will make the fence go this way, because it raises this whole side here up, and you can raise her and lower on either side. And that has it. All right, now we have our blade 90 to the table. We have it parallel with the miter tracks, and we have our fence straight up and down, completely vertical. And next thing we want to do, and the last thing we want to do, is make sure that our fence is running straight parallel with the miter track, which will be parallel with the blade. So what I do is I bring it over to that miter track and get that to where you can't feel that seam, and then feel of it in the back. And that is straight. Checking it with the next one. Make sure that you don't have any gap there. If you do have one, take your fence off, turn it upside down, and there is adjustments right here that when you tighten and loosen those, it will push and pull against the fence, which will in turn move your fence this way and this way. This one is in good shape. Next thing we want to do is check and make sure that there is a alignment right here, piece of glass that has a mark in it. It's supposed to fall over your number, and if you are making such as a 6-inch cut, you set that right on 6 inches, and there should be 6 inches between this side of the tooth of the blade, not the blade but the tooth, because the teeth on a saw blade are just a little bit wider than the actual blade itself. So you want to go to the tooth, from a tooth, the side of the tooth to here, and if that is whatever you've got set here, then you're good to go. If not, there's 2 screws on top of this. You can loosen them up, slide that till you get that right over it, and we're going to check that now. All right, I have my fence set at 6 inches. This is a 6-inch rule, and I'm going to slide that in between the fence. Make sure you have something that you're measuring with that is thick enough to not go up and under, because there is a slight gap under the bottom of those fences, and that just barely rubs it. So this one is spot on. It hasn't been knocked out. If that was out, I would slide my fence to what I know is my measurement, and then you can loosen these two screws. In this piece right here, you can see the amount of play that you have in that. You can loosen those, slide it to your measurement, and then just tighten those back down and you're good to go. I hope you find that helpful. Mine wasn't out as bad as what I was in fear of. I'll put it that way, because it is so hard to set these tools up. And once you get them set, then just minor, very minor tweaking from time to time is all that's required if you're not moving them around. Mine was, like I said, was taken out of the old shop, loaded on a trailer, hauled 4 or 5 miles or so away and stored. And then it was loaded back up again and brought over here and unloaded again. Of course, we were careful with them, trying not to knock them out and handling them the best way that we could. But you never know, if it's knocked it out. And mine was still pretty good, and I'm thankful for that. I've got several more to check. I'm going to do a video probably on doing the Rikon 14-inch bandsaw. I've got one of those. We're going to check the calibration on it, make sure it's right. Also have a horizontal bandsaw in the back of the shop that I've never lined up. I've got to get a blade for it, put it on it, and we'll try to do a video on that too. It should not be very far out because there is not a whole lot to those to get out, but there is some, so we will go over that too maybe when the time comes. Also have a couple of drill presses. I'll show you how I line mine up to drill a hole straight up and down. That's very important in most woodworking, just to have a vertical hole. You don't want your bit wobbling, and you don't want it drilling sideways on you unless you're intending on drilling sideways. Most tools are good to go, like your router table and so on and so forth. The planer, I'm also going to check that because those do get out, and I will probably shoot a video on that also. Those are some things to come. Also, the miter station build, when I get a minute to work on that, we'll start that, and I'll video all that I can of that also. Anyway, hope you found this helpful. If you enjoyed this content, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We do have more to come. We're just right now fixing to get fired back up. So I hope you stick around. Thanks for watching.